Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Continuing to take a look at the Week 4 slate, heading back out to the Pac-12, talking USC as they head on the road to play an Arizona State team that is really reeling. I mean, first year under Kenny Dillingham, banged up at quarterback, really banged up on the offensive line. Want to talk about what we want to see from USC coming off a bye week, presumably getting some of these guys back, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because next Saturday, you're going on the road, playing Coach Prime in the Colorado Buffaloes, which that's going to break the internet. I mean, there's going to be so much national media attention. USC certainly not going to overlook that one. And it does seem like a little bit of a tune-up game for USC coming out of the bye week. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support, and especially from the USC fans, has been absolutely phenomenal. This is my favorite team to talk about, and largely because I get to talk ball with you guys in the comment section. The amount of support you guys have shown means a lot. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, what do you guys want to see against Arizona State this Saturday? And then again, the tune-up before you play Colorado. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. And without further ado, let's get into this. And I want to just briefly talk about what we've seen from USC throughout the first couple of weeks. Caleb Williams not getting a ton of national media attention. Obviously, there's some bigger storylines in college football, but I mean, he's been so solid, and that's not to a surprise to anyone, completing almost 80% of his balls, 12 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, and he's only played like 6 quarters of football. I mean, the USC is getting on teams early, getting some of those guys in on the two deep on the offensive side of the ball, but don't overlook, and I feel like sometimes I do it because I've been talking so much about USC on the defensive side of the ball. Caleb Williams still looks like the best player in college football. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But I do want to start on defense because that is, we talk about it all the time. If USC does something special this year, which I certainly think they can, it's because this defense is a lot better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. We've been talking about it for months. This defense has just changed dramatically from just the talent level. I mean, you can tell when you turn on the tape. Like, this is a faster, stronger, more physical, and overall just more talented defense. And they're certainly looking like that through the first 3 games. Now, what do we want to see from USC this week against Arizona State? And the first thing I want to talk about is that pass rush. It's been phenomenal for USC throughout the first couple of games. And you look at this Arizona State team, they're allowing sacks on 10% of their dropbacks so far. Again, banged up on the offensive line. You take a look at guys like Jamil Muhammad, Solomon Byrd, and then on the inside, Bear Alexander, Kyon Barrs. You're looking for those guys to continue to turn it up, because that's where this USC defense starts. And again, the narrative around USC ever since Lincoln Riley took over the reins is, oh, it's going to be a soft team that's going to light it up on offense but not play very good defense. That is not the narrative. And you saw it sometimes last year. This year, I mean, couldn't be any farther from the truth. This team is flying around the field. And I have to give credit to the USC fans about Jamil Muhammad. If you've been listening to me for the last couple of months, I was on the Corey Foreman, I was on the Anthony Lucas train, and that is no knock on a guy like Anthony Lucas. When he plays at a high level, very, very good football player. But you guys kept telling me sleeping on Jamil Muhammad, and I 100% was. I don't know if anyone saw Solomon Byrd coming. I mean, he is emerging as one of the better pure pass rushers in the whole entire country. You combine that with Jamil Muhammad, who has a motor that is absolutely impressive. And that dude plays 100% every single snap. And then on the inside, and this is where I think USC it truly has changed. They are so physical in this inside of that defense. Bear Alexander, Kyon Barrs, Jack Sullivan, how they can reestablish the line of scrimmage on a consistent basis is kind of next level. And we talk about the rotation. I talk about Jamil Muhammad having that motor. Partially the reason he has that motor is they're cycling guys in and out. When I'm watching USC games, trying to kind of study up and get ready to present what my findings essentially for you guys, I mean, they're running me ragged. There's so many guys that are playing for USC that I want to keep note of, and they're all playing at a high level. And I think that's why you see such a high level of effort, because these guys are getting rotated in and out. The depth on that defensive line is next level, but the talent and the star power certainly is too. Not many questions about the defensive line. I have a feeling they're going to beat up Arizona State's offensive line. I just want to see it again because, again, you're going into Colorado. That's another offensive line that probably a little bit vulnerable to this ferocious USC pass rush. I want to talk about the linebackers. This is probably the position that we've talked the most about in terms of what is going to be the rotation, right? They play a lot of nickel, so only 2 linebackers on the field most of the time. Mason Cobb, been banged up. When he's healthy, I think he's a go-to starter, not going to leave the field that much. I think he's the best pure, complete linebacker that USC has. Then that begs the question, who's going to be Mason Cobb's running mate? And there are a ton of candidates, starting out with Tackett Curtis. Another week under his belt. And it just feels like Tackett Curtis continues to stack those practices and stacks those game reps. He's going to get better. But you guys know I love Tackett Curtis, talked a lot about him in the summer. That being said, you still see some growing pains. And you still see a true freshman out there that the wandering eyes and not really diagnosing stuff. And he plays so fast. Sometimes he's just playing a little over his skis at times. When it clicks for Tackett Curtis, and I don't know if it's going to click this year or next year, at some point it's going to click and you're going to see an All-American caliber linebacker. Eric Gentry, another guy that I know battling injuries and they're kind of like pitching him on a little bit of a snap count. That being said, I think Eric Gentry, when he's on the field, provides like a different element of linebacker play, especially when you're playing a team like Colorado looking ahead to next week where they're going to try to space you out. Having a guy with the length Eric Gentry has in terms of getting in passing lanes, being a presence in coverage over the middle of the field, the range that he has to go sideline to sideline, I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Gentry continues to get more reps, because when you get into Pac-12 play and play teams like Colorado or Washington or Oregon, teams that want to spread you out, I think Eric Gentry might be a really, really good asset. And then finally, Rajon Davis. He's playing a lot and at a high level. He's another guy that it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And even Shane Lee, who I don't think Shane Lee is going to be a significant starter when you get into more meaningful games, maybe against a team like Utah because of his presence between the tackles. But they're loaded at linebacker. I think they're still trying to figure out what linebacker pairing they want to go with. But it's a good problem to have because they got 4 or 5 guys that you feel pretty comfortable about playing. And then in the back end, again, you talk about the competitive competition. Damani Jackson, I still think, is the guy in terms of when it's starting to click. You're seeing it click, and when he's getting beat, it's just good on good. He's going to be really good. Sierra Wright's been playing good. I want to shout out Christian Roland-Wallace. I know he had a tough game last game. That being said, he's still a guy that played at such a high level at Arizona. And if he's not a starter, he's a depth piece that when you play a team like Washington, when you're going to have a lot more defensive backs on the field, you're cycling guys in and out. I do think Christian Roland-Wallace will be a bigger contributor than some people give him credit for. And then the back end, Kalen Bullock putting it together. I don't know if Kalen Bullock listened to me. I doubt he has. But I was kind of saying I would like to see a little bit more physicality in terms of the run support and tackling and space. The last 2 games, man, has he answered the bell. He's flying around the field. And then, again, more competitive competition. Max Williams, a guy that I thought could play a little bit better, has played a lot better. I think Bryson Shaw is a guy that's going to be really hard to keep off the field. I think what you're seeing at all 3 levels of this defense, defensive line, linebacker, secondary, the depth and competition they have at all of those position groups, kind of just elevating everyone's game. And that's something we didn't see last year. They didn't have any depth on that defense. They kind of had the guys, and those guys had to play. You're seeing a lot more competition that I think is raising everyone's level. I think that's part of the result why you're seeing USC defense that is massively improved. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, a few storylines that I just want to talk about that we haven't. Obviously, Caleb Williams playing like the best. He is the best quarterback in the country. Newsflash for everyone listening. That being said, the running game, I mean, you have 3 running backs who are averaging over 7 yards per carry. Marshawn Lloyd, Austin Jones, Quentin Joyner as a true freshman looks phenomenal. This rushing attack is really good. And if you want to play more coverage against Caleb Williams, which I certainly don't disagree with defenses doing because you have so many weapons, I mean, this USC team is just going to run the football on you, and they're going to do it at a high level. USC finally, I think, established their starting 5 up front. It's a very good offensive line. That also has some depth, but they established that starting 5. That's a great group. They're running the football at a high level, and if you want to commit more bodies to stop the run, I mean, there is a laundry list of guys who can get after it and hit those explosive plays. And I think the most optimistic part about this USC offense, you see a lot of teams, and this could be a knock on Washington, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when they start playing some better teams in the Pac-12, is Washington hasn't shown that they can run the ball at a high level. So if you want to kind of play coverage, you might be able to slow them down a little bit. USC is so complete. They're so efficient. If you want to play coverage, You're going to get beat with the run game. If you want to kind of try to stop the run, Caleb Williams and all these weapons are going to beat you in the pass. Talking about USC as a football team in general, I don't know if you can find, and again, you've only seen them play a couple games, not against great opponents, but it is such a complete team on both sets of the line of scrimmage. Very complete. They're deep. They're talented. They have the best quarterback in the country, surrounded by some of the best wide receivers in the country, a good run game, and then a back end of the defense that is dramatically coming along. I'd like to see that continued for USC heading into this game against Arizona State. Get up there, put 35 in the first half, let the starters take a seat, get your backups in, and then full attention to Colorado. But don't overlook Arizona State. Go in there, take care of business. USC hasn't overlooked an opponent yet. They've looked pretty sharp pretty much every snap and every game that they've played. And then next week, we're jumping on previewing the Colorado game. Cannot wait for that one. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, again, consider subscribing to the channel. USC fans, can't thank you guys enough for all the support, and we'll talk to y'all later.